You know who I'm talking about, right? The social media ghost. They've got the account, they're on the platform, but their own page? It's a total ghost town. Well, today we are going to get into the psychology of why some people are like that.
I mean, in a world that feels like it's all about getting attention, these folks are a real puzzle. They're there, maybe they're liking things, maybe even leaving a comment, but their personal life stays completely off-screen. So what is actually going on in their heads?
Okay, so our first guess is usually something like, oh, they must be shy, or maybe even a little boring. But what if I told you the psychological reality is often the complete opposite? Yeah, their silence online isn't a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of a very different and very powerful kind of strength.
All right, let's peel back that first layer. We're going to get past those snap judgments and look at the real story, which, spoiler alert, has almost nothing to do with being shy.
Psychologists actually have a term for this. They call it having a high privacy orientation. And it is a deliberate choice. These people aren't against being social, not at all. They're just very, very protective of their own headspace and their own emotional well-being from all the noise and judgment that comes with being online 24/7. It really all comes down to control. They want to control their own story. You know that little rush you get from a bunch of likes? Well, they get that from inside. They don't need external validation. They can have an incredible day or achieve something huge and feel zero need to post about it. And that ability to just enjoy your own life without needing an audience to clap for you, that right there is the definition of inner security. So, if inner security is the final product, what are the building blocks? Let's take a look at the architecture, how that quiet confidence actually gets built from the ground up. And it really just boils down to two incredibly powerful things. First, they have a really deep and solid understanding of who they are. And second, they have a kind of self-esteem that isn't shaky or dependent on what everyone else thinks.
This isn't just a vague feeling. It comes from a specific psychological trait. Basically, their own identity isn't a mystery to them. They're not online trying on different hats to see which one fits because they already know who they are, in the real world.
So what does self-concept clarity actually mean? Well, when you have it, you know yourself. You know your values, you know what you're aiming for. You don't need a social media bio to define you because your own definition of who you are is already rock solid, and it comes from within.
And that leads us right into that second pillar, secure self-esteem. Now, this isn't about being arrogant. It's a quiet confidence. It doesn't need to scream for attention or prove its worth with a perfectly angled selfie. People like this tend to be calmer. They're not desperately chasing approval, and all their energy is going into their actual life, not just performing it online.
Which brings us to the final and maybe most interesting piece of the puzzle, how they actually see the online world. Their entire mindset is just fundamentally different from the get-go.
And these two things are totally connected. Because they're naturally more introspective, it allows them to see social media for what it so often is, a performance. They aren't just scrolling and consuming. They're seeing the strings, they're analyzing it. So this is driven by something called an internal locus of evaluation. That sounds complicated, but think of it like this. They have their own internal scorecard. They judge themselves and their worth based on their own standards, not on the constantly changing whims of the online crowd. It's why one really great, deep conversation means more to them than 100 superficial likes.
And that right there is the heart of it. They just get it. They know that a perfectly curated feed of happy pictures is not the whole story, not even close.
This quote just nails the danger that they manage to avoid. Social media is not real life. It's a highlight reel, right? It's a collection of the best moments, all edited together. And trying to compare your everyday, messy reality to someone else's highlight reel, well, that's just a recipe for feeling bad about yourself. And there's a name for this. It's social comparison theory. It's a basic human thing. We are literally wired to see how we stack up against other people. But the social media ghost, they understand this is a trap. And by choosing not to play the game so intensely, they are actively protecting themselves from that endless and honestly pretty toxic cycle of comparison. Okay, so let's put all these pieces together. What's the big takeaway here? What do we learn from the person who's perfectly happy staying out of the digital spotlight?
Remember where we started, with this idea that maybe they're shy or withdrawn, but everything we've looked at points in the exact opposite direction. It points to a really grounded, self-aware kind of strength that doesn't need an audience to feel good about itself.
And this, for me, is the most powerful idea of all. Their sense of worth, of feeling valued, it comes from their real relationships and their own self-acceptance. They feel seen by the people who actually know them, not by a number on a screen.
And that is a truly profound kind of confidence.
So I'll just leave you with this to think about. In a culture that is constantly screaming that being visible is the same as being valuable, maybe the most confident thing you can do is just choose to be quietly, securely, and authentically you, even if nobody is watching.